Welcome to our first project in our new house. Today I'm sharing all about the start of the installation for our DIY built-in cabinets off of our kitchen. When we bought this home, we didn't realize that the kitchen was really lacking in cabinet storage space and also counter space. So we created a temporary setup with our old DIY TV cabinet in this little nook behind me between our pantry and dining area. It's providing us extra cabinet storage and counter space, but I seriously can't stand it and it's still not enough storage space and I just don't like the look of it either. I thought the best solution would be built-in kitchen cabinets to provide lots of extra space and to just hide everything that we can't fit in our regular kitchen cabinets. So I came up with the solution of built-in kitchen cabinets from floor to ceiling to provide the maximum extra storage that we can fit in this space. To make this project go much faster and be easier, I decided that we would do base kitchen cabinets on the bottom that have 2 drawers and cabinets, and then we would do a custom countertop and cabinets on top so we can do special features and make them a special size. I cannot wait to have all this extra storage and move more of my kitchen stuff in here, so let's get started. Brandon and I started by clearing everything out of the space. Then we brought our new base cabinets in. I will link below where I ordered them online. I went with these stock cabinets, which were a little more expensive because I love the shaker style door and that they're made out of plywood and not particle board. This way they will match the upper cabinets better, which we're building out of plywood. Next, we prepped the wall for installing the cabinets by removing the existing box molding and caulk on our wall. Brandon used our Dremel to cut the baseboard where the cabinets are going to end. Once the baseboard was removed, we went ahead and tested out the 2 stock cabinets in place and they were a perfect fit. And this is where everything came to a stop and this project became way more complicated than I thought it would be. I was so excited to get these cabinets installed that I quickly realized we are not going to be able to install them as is in the corner because the door that is next to the wall won't open properly. It's been a while since I installed built-ins and I remembered that you need a piece of trim between the wall and the cabinet so that the door can open right. So I went back to my design plan and redesigned everything and changed my calculations so that we included side trim. I think the built-ins will look better and more balanced with trim on both sides, so I'm going to use 1x2s on each side of the 36-inch base cabinet. To make sure that I'm not making any mistakes with my calculations, Brandon and I are going to transfer everything over to SketchUp. The built-ins are going to have upper cabinets and a pantry garage, which I'm super excited about. It's going to hide our microwave. Once everything was in SketchUp, I had to figure out the doors. The bottom stack cabinets have a full overlaid door, but because my upper cabinets have a face frame to match the base cabinet trim, I'm going to do a partial overlaid door on the top cabinets and pantry garage. I attached the 2x4s to the wall studs with 3.5-inch screws. Of course, our walls are not straight, so we had to use wood shims to keep everything level. After installing the 36-inch base cabinet, I realized that our 12-inch cabinet was not going to hit a wall stud along the back. The wall stud was falling right in between the 2 cabinets where the trim is going to go. The best solution I came up with is to use a 2x2 attached to the wall stud and 2 cabinets. Then in the front, I'm using a 2x4 going vertically along the cabinet to attach the cabinets together and have a piece of wood to attach the side trim to. Brandon cut the tops of the wood shims off with the Dremel. This tool really comes in handy with these built-in projects. For the countertop of our built-ins, I decided to use butcher block because I really love the warmth and character of it. This will be our first time using real butcher block though. In the past, I've always just DIY'd wood tops to look like butcher block to save money, but this time I wanted to use the real thing. We're going to wait to install the butcher block because I still need to test out stains and figure out my cabinet paint color to make sure that it looks good with the stain and finish that we use on the butcher block. Good morning! It feels like fall here in Charleston today, which these are my favorite kind of days to do woodworking outside because it's not super hot. Today we're going to be cutting our butcher block to size and also starting to build the frame of our upper cabinets with plywood. We got our butcher block from the local home improvement store. I did a lot of research on what kind of butcher block to use and I ended up going with a birch. I was considering a type called Hevia, which is like a rubber wood. It's less expensive than the birch, but I don't think it stains as nice. And because we might be using butcher block for our kitchen countertops when we redo our kitchen, I wanted to go with a slightly higher quality grade of wood. The butcher block that we chose comes in 4 foot, 6 foot, and 8 foot sizes. And unfortunately, our built-ins that we're building are just over the 4 foot size, so we had to spend about 50 extra bucks for the 6 foot size. And I'm hoping the extra material we can just reuse in our kitchen renovation, or we can like make a cutting board or something like that out of it. Anyways, we are going to measure 3 times with cutting this butcher block because we cannot mess the cut up. It needs to be perfect. And because our wall is kind of slanted, we're gonna have to make the cut at a slight slant. It won't be like a perfectly straight cut. And this way it'll line up flush against the wall and it won't have like a really large gap between the wall and the butcher block, which would be really difficult to caulk. Okay, so now we're going to measure out this butcher block and make the cut. I'm using our circular saw and a straight edge guide to make the cut on the butcher block. When I opened the butcher block, I found the directions and it said that the butcher block must be sealed or finished on all surfaces within 48 hours of removing the shrink wrap. Well, I did not know that and I'm not ready to seal it. I haven't figured out what sealer we're using yet, so I haven't even purchased anything. So that's not happening. But I've never heard about this, so I'm just going to end up sanding the butcher block before I finish it to kind of open the pores back up, and hopefully that'll be okay because, I mean, if you were refinishing butcher block, you would sand it down anyway and then finish it. So I think it's going to be okay, but just if you're doing this, that's just something to be aware of. Alright, now that the butcher block is cut to size, we can focus on the plywood cuts for the upper frame of the cabinet, and the measurements for these are all going to be based on my design plan that we transferred to SketchUp. I'm going to be putting all of the measurements that I used on my blog, which I will link below this video in the description box, in the next week or two once the project is totally finished. I'm using a premium plywood that I use for the majority of my building projects. It's formaldehyde free and it's pre-sanded. It's really beautiful to use. It does cost more, especially right now that lumber prices are higher, but I think it's totally worth it. We had some of our plywood cuts made at the home improvement store, and the rest we made with our circular saw. I'm using the scrap boards of the plywood for the backboards of the cabinet frame. These backboards don't need to be a full sheet of plywood because we need to keep the weight down of the cabinet, and I'll also use them for screwing the cabinet into the wall studs. I'm using my Craig jig to drill pocket holes into the plywood top, middle, and backboards for easy assembly of the upper cabinet frame. Before assembling our cabinet frame together, Brandon went ahead and marked and cut a hole in one of the plywood sides with a jigsaw for our wall outlet. This is the outlet that we're going to use inside of our appliance garage, so we don't want to cover it up. It turned out to be a pretty rough looking cut, but the cabinet face frame is going to cover part of it. We ran into another dilemma. Brandon realized that our hole that we had just cut out for our wall outlet was actually going to be in the way of where the hinges for our appliance garage door was going to be installed.
Uh-oh.
So he came up with a solution with his dad, and I'm gonna let him explain what he did to fix this.
So the problem we came across was the bracket wasn't gonna fit right. It was gonna cover this outlet, and we weren't gonna be able to install our appliance bracket. So my dad came up with the idea, and it was a genius idea. You just flip the board around, move the outlet from there to there. And we were able to get a outlet box that you can install against drywall, so that's not even attached to the stud. It's right on the drywall, and it was great, and it fits perfect. And then this hole is going to get covered, and so we don't have to fill it with drywall. Even better. It's covering that hole.
Somebody measured it perfectly. How about that? And the hole's not showing.
Kind of like we knew what we were doing.
How about that?
After we fixed our wall outlet problem, we were finally able to move on to assembling our upper cabinet frame. I had to use our trash can and pantry wall to help me get the plywood boards in place to clamp together because our 3-month-old woke up early from his nap, so Brandon had to rock him back to sleep. Once Brandon was back, we attached all of the boards together with wood glue and Kreg screws. The back support boards were attached last, and I made sure to face the pocket holes towards the wall side to keep them hidden. I'm not planning on adding any kind of additional backing board to cover these backboards, so I wanted a clean front on them. We were super excited to lift the cabinet into place. Oh, you're just taking it out. That's okay, we're gonna pull it out. It was almost a perfect fit, except that we forgot to cut part of our crown molding out. So we got our Dremel tool out again so we can cut the part of the crown that the cabinet's hitting, and the cabinet is going to be flush against the crown. For the face frame of the cabinet, we're using 1x2s and 1x4s. I've found that building the face frame separately first works better at keeping things more square and secure than attaching directly to the frame. We're using pocket holes and wood glue again for the construction of it. Okay, when I put the face frame up, it was not fitting perfectly like I thought it was going to, and after doing some troubleshooting and trying to figure out what the problem was, it turns out that although our face frame is perfectly square, the cabinet box out of the plywood is not. To fix this, we're going to have to add another plywood board with pocket holes in this large area. This is the largest cabinet we've ever made, so this has been a constant learning process, and the opening is just too big without another piece of support. But it'll work out because we'll just use the plywood board as one of the shelves within the cabinet. We need to get more plywood for fixing the frame, but in the meantime, I'm going to install our front trim and toe kick on our base cabinet. I'm attaching 1x2 wood boards that are pre-primed to the front of the base cabinets where our 2x4s are exposed. The trim's going to hide these 2x4 boards and also provide that built-in look. They are definitely going to need some caulking though, which we're going to do next week in part 2. Well, that's a wrap on part 1. I'm really excited about part 2, which hopefully will be next week. And in part 2, we're going to finish up the face frame and the shelves. We're also going to test out some finishes for the butcher black and stain it and get it attached. We'll also be doing some other exciting things like picking a paint color and what hardware I'm going to use with this. And we'll also be figuring out how this appliance garage is going to work. So lots of fun stuff to look forward to. You don't want to miss it. Make sure you're following along. As always, thank you so much for watching and stopping by.